default meeting of mine.
And
Oh, maybe it just needed a.
we should be good.
Okay.
All right.
I
Good
don't
evening. We got the mics on. Going to call to order the March 20th, 2019 Finance Committee. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien. Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Kelly is here. Alderman Loss. Here. Alderman Clee. Alderman Karen.
Here.
Alderman Harry Gathright. Mayor Donches. And we have
Okay.
4 members present.
All right, I did hear from the mayor, who's tied up on other business, and I did receive communication from Alderman Clee and Alderman Gathright. For those that know, we've had inhumane days for 2 days up at Concord, so they're in traveling, so they may be late or unable to attend the meeting. But I'm going to declare a quorum, and to repeat, we did start the meeting at 7 p.m. promptly. Also in attendance is Dan Coogan, Purchasing Manager, and David Fredette, the Treasurer Tax Collector. I will now open up for a public comment. Anybody in the public would like to make a comment? Seeing none, communications. To the clerk.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding library courtyard renovation. Mr. Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to CRGAIBI Consulting Services in the amount of $104,000. Funds are available in Department 181, Community Development, General Escrows.
And I take the clerk was going to make a final passage motion?
Yes, that's what I moved for.
Okay,
Yep.
final passage, okay, of that. Is anybody here that would like to speak on that from the city? Okay, Ms. Martian, please come forward, thank you. And I see that we already, please have a seat. Your city employees, the best we can do. The gentleman to your immediate left seems to have a question. Alderman Laws.
Thank you. If we approve this, when does work start and when does it end?
Great question. The project would be started for engineering and design, hopefully in June. Design over the summer, going out to bid next winter for construction next spring.
Perfect. We have the shameless plug here, the second Pride Parade for Nashua on June 29th this year. So I just want to make sure that didn't interfere because we're having it at the library.
The goal is to have it done in time for the library's 50th anniversary, which is in next summer, end of next summer, I believe. So we're trying to get it. Construction will affect things next summer.
Excellent. Thank
Yes.
And give you a lead in, if I may, and I'll recognize Alderman Kelly afterwards. This courtyard renovations, this is where we've had some of our, in the past, movie nights and everything during the summer. So this will greatly improve and enhance that, to the community, correct?
Correct. I will say the design is not is intended to be done in phases. We believe that the design will likely be more than the city is willing to spend next year to implement all of the improvements. With the multi-tiered plaza and ADA grading items that we want to fix and make better, it is a pretty comprehensive and large project, and so the goal is to get a true community space. And so that's what we're working towards.
Okay. Alderwoman Kelly.
Actually, you started to answer my question. I was sort of wondering where we were with design. You said design was done after that. So do we have like a preliminary or just general like check off items that we'd like to see?
We don't have anything yet. We have ideas in people's heads and ideas of this group and committee. The library has some ideas very specifically of what they need and want to get out of the space. And so those ideas were laid out in the RFP, and the goal is to work with this consulting group. We will have some public meetings, most likely in June, to kick it off with some preliminary ideas, visions, 3D demonstrations, things to get people's thought process going so you can give good comments and say what you really want. It will be very public once we get going.
Sorry, follow up if I could.
Follow up.
Thank you. So is this 104,000 just for like getting the design going?
Design and permitting.
Because we don't really know what it's going to look like
And
yet.
engineering, correct, yes.
Further questions by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. The clerk?
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding aquatic invasive species control and management. Mr. Vice Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Solitude Lake Management in the amount of $65,713. Source of funding is Department 181, Community Development General Escrows.
Okay. And Ms. Marchand, you're going to speak on this as well? Okay,
Absolutely.
very good. Any questions by members of the board? Alderman Karen.
Yes, thank you. This is just a continuation of the work that you've been doing for the last up 10 years, right?
Yes, this is the same 84 acres north of, upstream from the Mine Falls Dam that we will be treating with aquatic invasive herbicides.
Okay.
Follow-up?
And you're doing Sandy Pond this time?
Sandy Pond will be done this year as well as it was last year, and we saw some improvement. We will not be doing the Mill Pond and Canal this year. That's an every other year rotation in partnership with Parks and Recreation.
Thank you.
Alderman Laws.
This is more maintenance than it is a solution to a long-term problem, right? This is just gonna go on in perpetuity.
Most likely, unfortunately, yes. But we are having better partnership with our neighbors upstream, specifically from the Pepperell Dam. The new owners of that and their licensing agreement requires them to do a little bit more as well. So we should see a reduction over time in this. But we do believe water chestnuts, which aren't included in this, will be a bigger problem this year from the amount that went over last year. And so we're working with volunteers to see what we can do to get ahead of that this summer.
Thank you.
Further questions from the board? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
More correspondence from the clerk?
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding the purchase of two 2019 Ford Transit cargo vans. Mr. Vice Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and authorize the purchase from Grapponi Auto Group in the amount of $57,857. Funds are available in Department 191 School Surf.
Okay. Anybody here to discuss that, Mr. Coogan? And will represent this. Do I have any questions from any members of the board? Alderman Karen.
Yes, thank you. What are these vans used for?
Transport throughout the city, mostly. I think that the two vehicles they're replacing are both over 100,000 miles.
Right, I saw that.
They both have served their useful life, and this is a surf
Okay.
expense.
But they're not a particular reason, like busing or?
No,
Okay.
they're
Thank you.
pretty standard vans. One of them has a kind of metal workers, machinist kind of thing for repairs. The other one's more basic.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, members of the board? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Additional correspondence.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding 2019 asphalt testing. Mr. Vice Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to SW Cole Engineering, Inc. in the amount of $48,600. Source of funding is Department 160, Administration Engineering, Bond Funds.
Okay. If the alderman can hold on this question, do you want to come forward? Okay. Yep. Thank you for joining us. Alderman Laws.
I was just, because we did this last year as well, and then I understand the necessity of the expense. Did they catch anyone using a mix that wasn't appropriate last year?
No, Steve Dukran, city engineer. No, actually, the testing program was very successful, and the whole idea of it being this comprehensive is to keep everyone honest, and so it's difficult to catch anyone. We did have a couple of failures. We do compaction in the street, and a couple of those tests did fail, and there are provisions in the contract that if you have such a failure, you can reduce the payment. And so we are going through that process.
Okay. But did they, so,
Follow-up? Yes.
is that the only course of action that we have, is to reduce the payment? We can't make them redo the road?
Yes, so if it gets, so take for instance compaction, you're allowed up to 91% compaction. If it well, you try to achieve up to 91. Say if it's 89, you can reduce the payment by a certain sum. If it gets to a point where it's not acceptable, then they'll have to repave the street. We haven't gotten to that point.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Any additional correspondence from members of the committee? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you for coming up. Future communications from additional communications from the clerk.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding wet weather facility screening upgrade, design and bidding phase. Mr. Vice Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Wright Pierce in the amount not to exceed $178,000. Funds are available in Department 169 wastewater.
Mr. Coogan, are you going to field this one as well, or? Oh, Mr. Bouchard, please come forward. Thank you. State your name thank you.
Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent.
Okay, any questions from any members on the board? Okay, seeing none, call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Do we have anything else for you on the agenda?
I don't believe so.
Good, okay. Thank you for coming up.
Enjoy your evening.
Future, additional correspondence from the clerk.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding Casella Recycling LLC contract change order number 1. Mr. Vice Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and approve change order number 1 to the contract with Casella Recycling LLC in the amount of $120,000. Source of funding is Department 168, Solid Waste.
Okay. Any questions from any members of the committee? Okay. Can you just go over, because at the last automatic meeting, there was, the board did discuss this and everything. So just to reflect, I'm going to have you speak mostly to the viewing public at home and explain the situation with the recyclables as it is right now, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent, Solid Waste. The Solid Waste Department, we budgeted $400,000 to take care of our recycling, that's shipping it out and having it processed. We've expended that, or we will be expending that by the end of March. Markets in China's not accepting any or very little recycling from the United States right now, so it's affecting our recycling rates. We're seeing higher rates monthly per ton, so that's how we expended the $400,000. We asked the committee, actually we asked the Board of Public Works. It was favorably recommended that we expend another $120,000 to carry us through the rest of the fiscal year. And then we budgeted our same for next year, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, very good. Alderwoman Kelly, excuse me.
Thank you. I apologize if this is a question that you covered when I was unable to attend last week, but do we have a plan? Like, what's our contingency if this just continues and continues?
We'll have to discuss that next year. We're trying to finish out a full year to see where the markets are. They're fluctuating so much right now. Hopefully it'll start to stabilize. We just dropped another $14 a ton. It went up 13, went down 14, so we're still in the ballpark where we should be. Over the fall, it went real high, like almost $90 a ton, which is crazy. We've never seen that before. Now we're down in the $70 range where we budgeted for, real close to that. So we just have to see what the markets are doing, and then we'll have to make a tough decision at some point. We did mention that one of the options at our last meeting was to landfill the recycling, and it's just not the right thing to do right now. We want to try to do everything that we can for the environment and for the airspace. I mean, that'll eat up a lot of airspace for the city of Nashua in our landfills.
Additional questions from members of the board? Mr. LaFleur, if you saw the last automatic meeting, there was great interest in this, and I think we going to have to put our heads together with your division and everything to try to come up with something as the way it is right now. Nobody foresaw this. They reflected had to do more international trade than anything else, so
Absolutely.
we'll get it done, hopefully. Very good. All right, I'm going to call the question. Anybody have any objections? Signify by saying aye.
I'm confused now.
You're confused. I'm calling the question, motion to pass, I should say.
Okay, okay.
There you go, thank you. Motion passed. If you're in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And thank you for the correction, Alderman Laws. Yeah, I did,
He was
I
like,
did do
"Wait,
it backwards.
Are we about to object to this? Okay.
It's been a long 2 days in
Okay.
Concord. I mean, the yes and the no's.
You're doing great work.
Please forgive me. Thank you, bear with me. Additional correspondence from the clerk, please.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding Phase 3 landfill construction quality assurance services. Mr. Vice Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Sanborn Head and Associates, Inc. in the amount of $255,000. Funds are available in Department 168, Solid Waste Bond Funds.
Any questions from members of the board? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Additional correspondence to the board.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding Phase 3 landfill construction. Mr. Vice Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and contingent upon Board of Aldermen approval, award the contract to Charter Contracting Company, LLC, in the amount of $5,525,525. Source of funding is Department 168, Solid Waste Bond Funds. Nice round number.
Any additional questions from members of the board? Seeing none, Mr. LaFleur, where this is such a large
Yeah.
dollar amount, could you just give us what the Phase 3 is? I know it's increasing our life expectancy to the landfill, correct?
Yes, sir. This is going to be about a 5 to 6 acre expansion to our landfill. It's going to give us about 10 years airspace. It's needed. We're at a point in our landfill right now that we can't capture all the airspace in Phase 1 and 2 until Phase 3 is built. We're building ourselves into a pyramid, which is making our area smaller. So once Phase 3 is designed and built, we'll be able to capture all of the airspace that's in Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Okay, very good. And did Alderman Laws, did you have an additional?
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Oh, it didn't. Okay, thank
Chairman
you.
O'Brien.
Any other questions by members of the board? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Unfinished business.
There is none.
New business.
There's none.
Record of expenditures.
I move that the Finance Committee has complied with the city charter and ordinances pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period of March 1st, 2019 to March 15th, 2019.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote on the record of expenditures. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, we adopted the record of expenditures. Now, open up to general discussion by members of the board. Seeing none, move to public comment.
Nobody public is here.
Having nobody coming up for public comment. Remarks by the alderman. Seeing none, there's no need for no public section, correct, to the clerk?
Correct.
Okay. Entertain a motion. Alderman Karen.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the Finance Committee is adjourned at 7:19.